Hi guys! 1 second, I'm doing some technical things. I can hear myself. I suck at this. Hello everybody! So why is the Y in your name capitalized?
I just thought it looked better that way. Did it a while ago. I did it like 10 years ago, back in like Xbox when I first made gamertag, and just kind of stuck with it.
Okay, 1 second. Let me set everything up and change the title. And sorry, Alex Dids, but I'm hosting us now. Bye. Poor Dids. Poor Dids. Hi guys, how are you? Let me pop out the chat so I can see you guys better. Welcome to Eye of the Storm. If you guys have any questions, don't forget to, at myself or Vipey in chat. And I think, no, not for the Alliance. Dwarf, get out of here. Get out of here, Angry Dwarf. Alright. And open up my notes. I'm totally prepared, I swear. Totally prepared. Do-do-do. Do-do-do. Okay, here we go. Don't you laugh. Don't you laugh, Angry Dwarf. I see you. I see you every day, man. All right, welcome to our third no. Oh my god. Start over. Ready? Start. Redo. Cut. All right, ready? Go. Welcome to our 7th episode of Eye of the Storm. We're your hosts, Kagirii and Vipey, and during our episode today, we'll be talking about the support role in Heroes of the Storm. Our guest today is none other than the one and only Legacy with a capital Y. Thank you so much for joining us, Legacy. Can you tell us about
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, can you tell us about yourself and where we can find you and your role in Heroes of the Storm?
Yeah, I'll give like a brief little background. So, started playing in beta, so I've been around for a while. It was the first MOBA I'd played, so pretty much learned from the bottom up. Started as a Nova 1 trick, so have that as my nice background. Played open division the last couple of years, was on like top 8 teams. I now play on Team Good Guys. I'm a support main. Been support main pretty much the entire time while I've been playing. So.
And did you fall into support, or do you just really like the role of it, or did it just kind of happen?
Kind of both. I enjoy it, but also it's just kind of like what came naturally as like my best role.
Gotcha.
So.
Very cool.
But yeah, so you said where can you find me?
Yep.
Division S. Play like I said with Team Good Guys. So we have a match Saturday. I think it's at like 8. If anyone wants to check that out. And then also I'm on Twitter, Legacy_HOTS, and on Twitch as Legacy100.
Okay.
So that's
very cool. Thank you so much. Vipey, your turn.
Yes.
Where can we find you? I always do this before in the beginning and the end. You know this. Come on, Vipey.
I know this. Sorry. You know. I'm Vipey. Hi. As usual. Twitch.tv/Vipey, and then Instagram, Twitter, Vipey_, and then here every Wednesday after the awesome things that happen.
Yes, after the awesome things, all of the Heroes of the Storm. So before the show, we were actually conversing already about healers. So I hope we can remember what we were talking about, because we talked about a lot. But we are going to be talking about supporting in Heroes of the Storm. And now with the new roles, support and healer, let's talk about the difference between being a support role and being an actual healer itself. Vipey or Legacy, you guys can take the floor on
that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it's nice, like, in terms of like queuing like Storm League or whatever, that you don't have people that think supports can solo heal. In general, I think for the most part, especially with all the Avatar nerfs, I think previously you could get away with Avatar solo heal, and it was actually really strong. But I think it's now like pretty consistent that you need a healer.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, you can't, like, nowadays, especially with like the heavy front lines that I'm seeing, support mainly is just there to, I don't know. When I think support, I think shield supports, but mainly damage. I think of Tassadar. I think of Zarya. Even though she's like kind of a bruiser, I still see her as a type of support. I don't know. This is just my thinking. But as a healer, this healer is just, puts out massive heals like Malfurion. Or what about Karazim? He kind of has both. He has a damage build as well as a full heals build. Like, where would you throw him? I think he's kind of like both support and healer.
I think like right now, Karazim's extremely weak unless he's played in like a healer plus support or like double heal composition, just because like there's so many good DPS options out there that can like poke you down with like Karazim's limited heals. I mean, some like really top Karazims can get away with it. I think it's also more of if you go for like a like tank killer type comp with like 7-sided things like that, that can get use as solo, but for the most part, I think just like healing output is just way stronger from others.
Are there any like really good support healer compositions that you could run nowadays? Or is it just mainly just, that solo healing life, no supports?
I don't want to take all the questions, by the way, Vipey, so feel free to chime in too.
I like listening. I just want to say supports are basically what they are labeled as. I consider them a utility. They're something that they add a different flavor to the team, either where your team is lacking or it's a counter. It's a counter bracket. So there's heroes that have shields that can enable your team, enable the battlefield, and that's basically what they are. Supports are completely different from a healer aspect. Shields are a savior more than like a thing, and they also, like you said, Kags, with like Karazim and like Legacy said, you can mismatch them. They're like they said, they are the hero that fills in the slots where you're missing things. That's what I see as support as. They're literally just a utility. And that's what some of them that were in the brackets they were incorrect. And like I said, it was like people would go in the draft and go, I want to play this because it says it's a healer. Healer's a healer. And same difference with off-topic tank and bruiser.
So who are the considered supports now?
The considered supports
like
now?
Supports
who are
is
the
like
supports now?
like Lost Vikings.
Abathur is Abathur support?
Yeah, Zarya, Abathur, Tassadar, and
there's
Medivh.
one more.
Medivh is a support, right?
And Zarya, isn't she?
Yeah. Are those the only supports? Like quote unquote
There's
supports
only 5
right now? There's only 5.
Yeah,
Wow.
Think of it as like this is kind of like a joke in my mind. Like think of it as like the bench warmers. Like you were dividing up everybody into a rank, and they're like, oh, where do these people go? I don't know. We'll put them here. They don't have a strict role. They are a crossbreed.
Yeah.
Well, all of them.
Yeah, Zarya is from chat. Zarya is is she under the bruiser category? But she has that support. Go ahead.
Yeah, she's under support, I think.
Oh, is she really? Because she has those shields, those last minute shields that they basically support. I feel like Zarya supports both tank and healer. Just that little push. Like if that healer can't push, you just like gotta tap the healer, and then the support can fill in with the shields. But yeah, so let's talk about healers now. So who are the top healers currently in the meta? I see a lot of.
So, from my perspective, I think there's kind of like a 3 to 4 that are kind of at the top that you see most frequently, being Tyrande, Onna, Malfurion. Those being the top 3, and then kind of situationally, like if other team is very burst damage or if it sees your comp, like Uther I think is really strong right now. Really, I think it's a good time in general for supports. Like a year ago, it was first pick Malf every single game, versus now, like you can pick a support early, you can pick it later. Like there's a lot of good options that can fill out a comp.
What about Lily?
I love Lily, but
please say nice things. I love Lily.
I'll give you situational.
She's okay. She's situational.
Yeah. Like every support has a purpose and a place to have them. But like if you have a bunch of auto attackers, Lily can just mitigate so much damage.
Yeah. Like if
For the
the other team like 1-2s like Greymane Illidan or something like.
Or what about like Tracer?
Those blinds can be strong.
If you have a Tracer on the other team, I would pick Lily. Or no?
Yeah. I think like Uther, Karazim are better counters into a Tracer, but
things that can knock her down.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. We all know Ariel's the best healer, so.
I actually had an Ariel in my game the other day, and she put out a ton of damage, or a ton of heals. She was good. She's very good. So I mean, I guess it just you can play whatever healer you want. I guess it just depends on how good you are with the healer and how well you know the mechanics of the healer. But I love that I'm seeing a lot of Tyrandes lately, because she used to be laughable a year ago. Like nobody would ever pick Tyrande. She was like on again, off again healer. She was amazing like in the beginning, and then she kind of sucked towards the middle, and now she is. So what they reworked her, right? They buffed her.
Yeah, they well, kind of like you're saying, like 2 years ago, it was like Diablo Tyrande meta of just go kill everyone, and Tyrande was super strong. Then they changed it up a little bit, and she was near unpickable as a solo support, and then reworking her, giving her like a Loons on 1, giving her 2 cleanses on 7, like
her
just
first talent,
really strong utility.
Her first talent allows her auto text to heal, right? If she, how does that work again? I forget.
So you just click on one of your like teammates, and all of your like auto attack damage onto another hero heals them.
Right.
And it lasts like it lasts like 8 seconds, and it's only a 30-second cooldown, so it's really strong.
She's so strong.
Can I say my memeable moment when that first came about, that new talent? I misread it, and I thought it was the auto attack damage the buffed target does heals them, and I was like, hell yeah, Tracer, here you go, have at it. And I'm like, why did she die? And I was like, let me go ahead and reread this, shall we?
That's funny.
Oh man. So let's I want to talk about Onna, because I still to this day have never played her, but what are some of the best counters to Onna? Because I find myself either banning her every game or losing the game that I play against an Onna. Like, what are the best counters when your enemy team has an Onna?
I think against Onna, especially if it's picked really early, it's like really hard dive to like pressure out the Onna. I think Tyrande is super strong against it, just like we talked about before, like having 2 cleanses, like even if she sleeps 2 targets, like you can cleanse both of them.
Wait, Tyrande has
that's really
2
good.
cleanses?
Her Q on level 7, if you get the stuns, sleeps, and slows, I think it is. Yeah.
I gotta try Tyrande again. I used to play her all the time. I gotta pick her up again. She's hella strong.
Yeah, so her Q has like her heal has 2 charges, and it based on like your auto attacks, it's like reduced cooldown.
Dang.
So the more you're autoing, the quicker it's back up again. And
so
level 7 it has cleanse basically.
So you talked about picking Onna in the early phase of the draft. When typically is the best time to pick a support or a healer during a draft?
I think it's like if your comp really depends on something, or you know that the other team likes to do something, you can early pick it. But I think it's a situation where there's so many good ones that you don't have to like first pick a healer. Like you can pick it in the 2-3, you can pick it after the second ban phase. Like it's really, there's enough good options and enough like viable supports that you really see it in a lot of places throughout a draft.
Yeah, I've been noticing that. I've been noticing that like I haven't really been stressing out over when my team, picks a support first, because it's just like, okay, it's whatever. You got Brightwing first pick. That's fine.
I don't know. I find it like I prefer, if I'm ever supporting the game, Like if I get into a match and I see that no one has support, like even hovered or picked as their role, I like to last pick it because I feel like there's so many ways to counter an enemy team picking a certain support, which and
Yeah.
vice versa. Early picking I think early picking a healer is also bad because you can easily, Onna might be good, but like you pick the right heroes and she's not as viable as you want her to be.
Yeah, I agree. Like if I ever have my choice, I always like last picking just so I can, in my personal preference, unless you're looking for like some specific combo, like de-shielding a Genji or something along those lines, um, I personally prefer to like counter the other team's damage than looking for great synergies in my damage. So I'd rather like pick it later anyways. And so having enough viable options where it's not like, oh, one is just by far the best, like allows you to do that more often.
Yeah, I definitely like what Twinkies in chat said. They said, I think a non-cleanse support shouldn't be picked too soon. Yeah, if you have I definitely feel like I would, feel safe picking a support that has, wait, where was I going with this? I forget where I was going with this, but I agree with Twinkies in chat. I just completely lost my train of thought, but,
I agree with that too. It's like why you're not going to see like, I don't know, like a Lucio or something like first pick or, like what, I
He has a
mean,
cleanse now.
Wait,
I
does he
guess that's
really?
fair. Yeah, he has his ult now.
You can tell I haven't played support in a really long time. If
But
I pick support, I usually just go Rhaegar or Lily, and that's it. I should get more supports.
Lucio's cleanse is interesting. It's like Karazim's cleanse, but except like slow motion. Like
yes.
like cleanse is supposed to be a clutch moment, and it's like Lucio's like, hold on, bro, I'm gonna give you a high five. Here I come, don't die now, and like your teammate's running away from you, and you're like, so it's an interesting, it's a cool cleanse. Don't get me wrong, because you can like cleanse the entire team really fast, but I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, I think sound barrier is like still better, but it's if you really need cleanse, it's definitely good talent because like you said, you can jump around and cleanse a bunch of things. But yeah, like back on like the original thing of like early picking something without cleanse, like there's just too many counters of like stun chaining and killing something that it's if you show early on that you're not gonna have a cleanse, like I mean, you can literally just last pick Chromie and loop somebody and kill him. Like,
oh yeah, especially new buffed Chromie. More damage.
I still want to try new buffed Chromie.
She got buffed again today.
What?
Great. Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Okay. No, but
Okay.
she, like, I mean,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was gonna say, I'm like, that's kind of like it's a hard thing. It's kind of like Alex Straza doesn't have a cleanse, but she is really viable, keep people alive. But I think she's a pretty good like first pick support. She has a pretty good rounded kit. But it's hard because people like picking Alex first, then it's automatically okay, cool, just do splash damage where the people can't group up, get so much value out of it. It's a thin line to walk.
I think right now with where Anna is, like Alex is almost unpickable.
Oh yeah.
Just with like grenades, so that's kind of sad. I enjoy Alex.
Oh, I love Alex. I think Alex is great. I agree.
Wait, explain that. Why is she unpickable now because of Anna?
So her grenade makes it so you get 0 healing.
That's
and
right.
that grenade range is extremely far if you talent into it, and so pretty much if you have the I'll say willpower not to like throw it out early to try and get a kill or whatever, you can just throw it on top of like every Alex W, so like none of the circles heal anyone if it's like in a contested spot.
I totally forgot about her, that her bombs do that, her grenades do that. They lessen or completely negate the healing that you take. So let's talk about, as a healer, in the early laning phase of the game, where is the best place for the healer to be in terms of laning? And what healer do they normally really want to go with? Obviously not with the solo laner, because the solo laner is the solo laner for good reason. But if you're not in a situation where your team is four-manning mid and bot or mid and top, does the healer just, rotate between the lanes themselves, or like who should the healer team up with, because they're obviously not supposed to be in lane by themselves?
So I'd say from like a general standpoint, your biggest concern in like early phase is like staying with your main DPS. If it's really map dependent. Something like Volskaya, for instance, like you do 2 rotations and you and your DPS should be on turret camp. So it's not like you're continuously rotating. I'd say for the most part, like your role is just in terms of early game, like assisting in rotations until camps are ready. And then if it's like giants are doable, like you don't necessarily have to go, but if like hard camp, turret camp, things like that, it's kind of like going to support your DPS to get those map objectives out.
Okay. So that's good to know as a healer, just where to be in the early, because laning is 100%. Even if you're a healer, laning is 100%, because you don't necessarily have to kill the minions to get XP. You just have to be near them when they die to gain XP. So let's talk about team fights in terms of healing. I've had a lot of very aggressive healers recently, especially Stukovs. I've had a lot of Stukovs that like to go in the front line, and I don't know how to tell them to stay back, but then you have the situation where your team is chasing, which then makes the healer chase that person, and it's just like a whole situation that you don't want to be in. So where in the team fight do you technically want to position as a healer?
I mean, general rule, you don't want to be frontlining. I mean,
yeah.
there's obviously like melee supports where like you don't want to just like sit 10 feet behind all your teammates and not do any damage in a fight. So that's not the answer. I think the kind of biggest thing with that is like being in a situation like if you're a melee support where you're tracking the other team's cooldowns is one of the biggest things. So like if I'm Rhaegar, like I can't go in and fight while ETC still has slide and they're all right there and I could just get slid in one shot. Like it's tracking some of those like big powerful like one shot type of cooldowns in terms of like positioning for those like melee ones that I think is really important. Knowing when you can get in, do your damage, and when you need to be out safer. As far as like range supports, like a Malf, Tyrande, whatever, you want to be in position where you can obviously help in terms of damage, but it's more important on like following up on your team and making sure that they stay alive. So on the flip side, if you have the ETC, like you want to make sure you're at a position where like you can follow up like your Tyrande stun after the ETC slide, things like that. So like position wise, like I think those are kind of like the just main differences from like melee versus range. Like you have to track the cooldowns a lot more.
I definitely see a lot of people not really understanding what targets to heal first. Like what you said right there, where the ETC is going to charge in, one of your teammates is going to take a lot of damage from one of the enemy teammates, or one of the enemy team heroes. Obviously, you would, keep an eye on that hero that is getting charged or whatever, and heal that person first. But I've seen a lot of heals that have been wasted, especially like with Rhaegar, because Rhaegar's heals are on a long cooldown. It really bugs me. Like I love playing Rhaegar, but his Q just, even though it's that chain, it just takes forever. And if I heal the wrong target by accident, then it's like, well, sorry team, I'm not gonna. So like what is a rule of thumb when the right time to heal a certain target?
I think it's kind of just like being able to sense the flow of a fight,
Mm.
and also like knowing when a fight is lost and not like like wasting heals on somebody that's already safe and out, and like making sure that, for instance, let's say you have a Rainer that's at like 10% health. He's out of the fight. He's able to get away, and you have like a 50% um, like ETC or something that already slid. He has no escape. He's in the middle of the other team. Like, you don't need to waste your heal on like the Rainer that's already safe. Like, it's more
Mm.
important to like save the other person if you're like the team fight's not like if you can't turn that. So I
Yeah.
think that's like the biggest thing is like just having like the game sense of like who's really in trouble. Um, Again, it's a lot of like I think a lot of my just in terms of mentality is like just cooldown tracking of like if Jane has already used Blizzard, like people are safer. So you may not need to ancestral if they get stunned right away. Things of that nature.
Yeah. And how do you know like when like it's I've seen a lot of people also trying to constantly save everybody in the team. Like you said, when you know someone is going to die, you just leave them because better one person dead than the two other people that tried to save them.
Mhm.
So definitely when you're a healer, don't always try if the tank is peeling for you. Like if I'm Johanna and I still have my D and my heal up, and I peel for you, don't come back and start fighting. Just keep running, please. I will be fine. Just keep running. You have to know when to just keep going and not turn around and cuz like I said, one dead is better than having 3 or 4 dead. Um so let's see. As a hero, where should oh wait, let me see. Uh Okay, so we've answered all of my questions. Does anybody have any questions in chat? Looks like you
Oh, I
have something
think
in here, Vipey.
looks like you might have
Yeah.
skipped one.
Yeah.
You said support healer combos? I don't
Support
think we
healer
talked about that
combos.
one.
Oh, I see. Okay, what are some good support healer combos? If you were to take a support and a healer to make up for lack of damage or what have you, what are some really good combos that are good for this meta? If you have to do if you
Mhm.
have to do this comp.
I think my perspective on it is like if you have a support, you're generally having like burst mitigation. So you have like
Mm,
Medivh with his shield, Tass with his shield, Zarya with the shield. So generally like you wouldn't want to pair it with like an Uther that's like burst heals like against like burst damage. You want like more sustain heals to go with it. I think that's like the
okay.
main thing that I think of when I think of like support healer is like how do they complement each other?
Mm,
And I think if it's like too much about like burst mitigation, and not enough sustain, it kind of like isn't doesn't work as well. I think as far as like like combos go, like I think in terms of like Tastar, I think it's always going to be like the classic pairing of Tastar with like a Vala, a Tracer, those kind of auto attackers,
mm.
with a lot of mobility. Medivh is, I don't know, pretty much good in almost any situation if you're good enough.
Yeah.
He's just a really good hero.
I've been
Uh,
seeing a lot of Abathur Tyrande, which is
I
weird. I don't know if that's
I
intentional.
I don't
or
know
if,
if it's necessarily intentional. I think they're just both really strong heroes, but also like in Abathur comps, like there's a few different ways to play Abathur comps that you'll see is like
mm,
sometimes you'll get like the push down a lane, sometimes you'll have like the gank squad type comps, and like that's what Tyrande excels in is like
mm,
those gank style comps. So I think it's just like two really strong heroes that like they can help each other in terms of like what you want to do, especially early
Hmm.
game in a team comp.
right, right.
Oh yeah. I mean, like you said, like to answer the question that was in chat, kind of like what we're talking about. Medivh is kind of like to counter a cleanse. Medivh's to counter kind of like burst damage. So pairing him or even Zarya with anything that would potentially be life threatening to another player in the game, it's definitely a good pair. Like those are what those two heroes are pretty good at when they excel with. Is just basically kind of like if you have a Rhaegar, like you said, your heal is taking too long to get through. Like it can actually give you that window to, have that cooldown instead. So that's kind of what supports are. Like it's a place to fill in the gaps.
I feel like if I had a Rhaegar, I wouldn't mind having a support on the team just because that Q is... It's not an atrocious cooldown, but it is a frustrating one because it's... What is the cooldown on Rhaegar's Q?
I think it's like
7, 8?
I was going to say like 7. That's my guess.
It's like 7 or 8 seconds, which is a long time when you're team fighting and you're trying to heal everybody and your teammates keep going in and they keep pinging you. Can you tell I'm having flashbacks? I'm having PTSD here.
I'm just laughing because I keep thinking of like when we're talking about positioning. I'm just like thinking of that Lily who runs into the enemy team like this, and you're just like, oh, kill the Lily, and she's just like running through it. The whole entire enemy team will die, and Lily's over here going. Why is she dead? And that's just Lily for you. And then there's Deckard Cain who does the same thing. It was like, oh, all right, heroes, and you're just like, why aren't you dead? And like, sorry,
dude,
that was my answer.
I love Lily. The one thing that upsets me the most is when Lily pops her chugs.
Her jugs.
When Lily
pops her chugs.
When Lily pops her jugs, okay, the team doesn't back out. Like I see a very weird pattern where everybody wants to keep fighting all the time, no matter. They have no sense of their teammates' health or their mana bar, and when the enemy Lily pops her jugs, the team keeps fighting. I try to tell the team, back off. Lily popped her jugs. We should go back and heal. But no, pops her jugs. Yeah, I regret saying that now. But there are just certain things that you need to do in order to.
Oh, you mean
what?
the enemy Lily has popped her jugs, and that your team won't leave.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, wait, why does the team want to leave?
Yeah.
No,
I was like, wait a minute, carry the 2.
I said enemy Lily. When the enemy Lily, pulls out her ult,
jugs. Got you, heard.
people keep fighting, and they're like you said, why aren't they dying?
Yeah, well, that's like the same. That's like the same thing when you hear like, "Behold, the Dragon Queen," and everyone's like, "Let's go in more." And you're like,
it's like, no, back off. Let her blow dragon. Let her.
I'm like, Khaleesi's here. Let's leave. Let's not.
Khaleesi.
That sound is literally like when you hear dragon, I just run away instantly.
You just get out.
Like if it's not interrupted, it's just like, just run.
Yeah, I think with HOTS, that's the main thing that I see that people have a hard time with is just backing out from a team fight. Everybody wants to constantly fight all the time, but if your healer can't heal you, you're gonna die, and then you're gonna blame your healer.
Yeah. My favorite is when you're playing Deckard, and you're gonna see a lot more. Deckard got a little bit of a buff this patch. Today. I love when people are like, heal me, and you're like, there's a potion right next to you, literally right there, like, right, look at it.
The worst is when you're sitting there and someone has like 10%, and then you see like your tank at like 80%, both are running out of the fight, and the tank takes the pot. It's just sitting there, and you're just like,
yep.
No.
My favorite. Yep. Or it's the enemy trace, or your team on your tracer, and your team, and Lily is like, "Oh, I'm almost dead, love," and it's like, "No, you're not. You have like 10% missing." And she's like, "I got it," and you're like, "Okay."
That's.
And there's also the when the greater potion transformation. You tell the team, "Hey, I have greater potion. Let it charge for a bit," and they're like, "Okay, fine." And you're like, "No."
And they take it. They take it before it fully charges. I've done that multiple times. I've been like, "Oh, crap." Oh crap! I mean, it still heals you, but it doesn't heal you that huge burst. I
thought that was like the biggest meme talent for the longest time, and I started picking it a little bit, and I was like, that actually is an insane amount of heal.
It
and
is.
I don't know. I'll have to look because I don't know if the buff is like percentage based or what on that bigger heal, but with Deckard getting like increased heals,
yeah,
like
they increased his healing.
Yeah, in the patch today.
I wasn't able to look at the patch today.
He just kind of.
I think he's going to be good now.
They increased the healing by what, 25? Math's hard. Yeah, 25. No, 15. Sorry. They increased it by 15, so that's pretty. And they also reduced the mana cost of a Heroic Cube, which is amazing because that cost so much mana. You'd be like, Heroic Cube, well, I'm going back. You know. And they also increased the amount of healing for Ruby Cube or Ruby Gem, which is kind of crazy because that wasn't the best talent to pick. But imagine like that could be viable now on capture points that are clearly you're gonna get value out of it.
Like I think of that with like an Illidan or something like Dive. Like it's got interesting potential. I don't know that it'll get picked, but
it's
like when you look at it, it's got almost the same amount of heal as a regular potion. So if you can proc at least a few of those and you have like the strong melee front, like
it basically now has the same amount of healing as, like you said, as the original Q potion before buff. So if you play your cards right, you know, there is other viables on that tier, but like that healing reduction is just insane. So I don't know.
Yeah, I like just like the theory and the potential of like if that is good and that means all of the cube buff talents are good, then like the level 20 cube reduction cooldown, it makes it like insanely short.
Yeah.
So
and I like that I like all these little like added functionalities like cube mastery. Now not only does it also reduce the cooldown of cube, it also reduces the mana cost of your seal. So all the things that Deckard was having trouble with, which was wanting to be useful with damages and lockdowns, now you can actually still do those without punishment, like, you know, and still use your potions constantly. So he's pretty good. You know,
I think it's like enough changes that like I think we'll get to see some play with the buff, and then just like in general, it'll be fun like experimenting with Ruby and stuff to see if that could be good in certain comps.
Now, I have a question. A lot of people say that if you want to climb, don't heal. But obviously your team needs a healer. So if you are most comfortable with healing, what are the healers that you want to take? I know the top are Tyrande, Onna, Mouth, and Uther. But in terms of just getting into healing, what are the starter healers you think if you want to really just, you know, try out healers for the first time?
I actually think in terms of like if you're solo queuing, especially like plat and below, I think that Rhaegar is the best if you're actually better than people, because you have wave clear, you can do camps by yourself, like you can basically do all the macro for your team and heal. That's like what I think in terms of like, even though it's not the best healer out there, like it's a good enough healer and has all of the rest of the utility there, that I think that's a really strong one in terms of like climbing if you are utilizing it in the right way.
And he can ancestral himself now.
Yeah.
Yay!
I love that change. Self ancestral and the lightning bond coming back. I'm excited to play some Rhaegar.
Yeah, I love Rhaegar. He's one of my favorite because he just does so much damage and he can be so aggressive, but you know, respectively, be regressive. Be aggressive as much as you can be. Don't just. I know you guys are gonna do that. Does anybody in chat have questions? I have some from Mesa here. He has 2 questions, I think. Are there healers more viable with dive comps versus mage comps? That's a good question. So if you have a dive comp, what healer would you want to pick? And if you have a mage comp, what healer complements that?
I think it like if you have a dive comp, generally that means you have like a tank with strong CC and engage. So it's like getting a support that follows up on that. So I mean, kind of like the strong ones. Like I mean, Tyrande. I think Tyrande can be an answer for pretty much anything that is good in terms of comp. Like Anna can be really strong in terms of like if you hit a sleep on someone, team engages, you grenade them, they can't get healed. Like, but like there's also the classic of if you have like Illidan or Greymane, like a Rhaegar, because you're throwing, your shield on them, you can ancestral them, things like that. Honestly, it's a difficult question because it's not like there's one that's like you need this, but I think it's just like I said, getting something that synergizes with either your tank engage or if it's like an Illidan or whatever, making sure that like you keep that diver alive.
I feel like
Like if it's a Genji diving in, like D shield is always good for D blade, that kind of a
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a lot of healers out there, like we talked about earlier, that have a lot in their kit and are pretty well rounded. Um, I think Mesa has another question. Would you pick different supports based on whether you're soak heavy or damage heavy? Example, 3 assassins, 1 healer, 1 tank versus 1 bruiser, 1 tank, 2 assassins, 1 healer. Would you pick different supports based on whether you're soak heavy or damage heavy?
So I think I like understand the general question. I'd say triple assassin. I don't know if I'm assuming one of those is a bruiser, not an assassin, because I'd say just triple range assassin in general is not very good.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it does depend. I guess I'll maybe flip it in terms of like I don't know if I'm changing the question, but like if you think about the style back in the fall where Team Freedom on Sky Temple was literally just running a new Great main, playing macro and just beating macro. Like
Hmm.
that is like a perfect comp for like a Rhaegar to help with camps, help with pushing, that kind of thing, where you wouldn't want like I don't know, just like a pure just like heal type of support. Like you want someone that can actually help in terms of like pushing the macro game. So I think that's I'd say the easiest explanation of like does it matter in terms of like soak push versus like damage heavy. Um, but I think in general the biggest things of support are like around the goal of your comp and the goal of the other team's comp. So like I kind of mentioned before, like if they're all about one shot wombo combo, like having burst mitigation. If they are, you know, I don't know, say Lunara Rainer, like you just need like a lot of heal output. So that's like where like a Malfurion, something with just a lot of overall heals can be
Or
good.
and Onna. Onna just
Mm-hmm.
puts out
And
heals like
Anna,
crazy.
yeah.
Like she's so, if you have an Onna on, oh my god, she's so hard to, and if they're protecting her, man, even if you have a really good dive comp, if the enemy team is so good at protecting that Onna, she's so hard to dive on. Ugh.
Yeah, even
Cause
like even
Yeah.
on that
yeah.
W, like if you dive, like they get the increased W per enemy or ally, like you can literally just heal to full from dead with one
Mm-hmm.
like W. It's insane.
I think that's one of the things we were talking about before we went live. We were talking about like Anna and how they like buffed and nerfed a few things with her.
Mm-hmm.
And like I just said like that Anna stacking quest is like the biggest trap talent on level 1.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it may be fun to go stack, but you're way farther forward than you should be if you're, getting 5 stacks on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
In most situations, like obviously in a team fight, you should be autoing and things like that if you can from a safe spot. But if you're just like in general stacking during the laning phase, like a good team is going to jump on top of you and kill you, especially when you're slowing yourself with your trait.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and like you said, like if you get dove on, like in theory, like I get the mentality of like, oh, I get dove, I need to be able to auto attack to heal more, but you literally are just Wing yourself, and because there's multiple people around you, you're getting way more value off of that heal, off of the
Mm.
grenade.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, I gotta try Anna. She just seems so like, I feel like I would get so frustrated because, being a teammate who is, stutter stepping, I feel so bad. you know, being like let's say a Vala, if I'm like vaulting everywhere or stutter stepping back and forth trying not to get hit, and then here's the Onna, like I'm here and then she heals, I'm over here and I keep missing the heals. Like I just feel it's like that Karma animation skit with the Onna. She just gets so frustrated. I would love to. I would love to try. It's about. I guess with Onna, it's about, you know, what's the travel time for her heal. It's about going with the heals where you think your enemy teammate is gonna end up.
Yeah, the sleep dart's got like a surprisingly like longer duration. Like you think it's gonna go a lot faster. I think
Yeah.
like if I had to guess, the heal shoots faster than the sleep dart. I don't know like the exact timing difference or whatever.
No, it definitely does.
I would say just from a perspective, if you're having that issue of like you're the Vala and like your Anna keeps missing you, well, one, hopefully they're better than that. I can't really like if they're just like missing, but like I would try playing some games as Anna. I think the biggest thing is like if you play as Anna, you can like feel out the timing on heals because in general Anna's like queuing off cooldown in a team fight. Like in general you're unless there is some like big stun and you take the cleanse on 13, like in general you're just queuing off cooldown to mass output heals. And like you can feel like kind of the rhythm of like the queues. So you don't like unless you're like vaulting to dodge something like a gleaming orb or something, like you can wait it out, you know the heal's coming in like half a second and then vault right after. I think if you like play a few games as Anna and just kind of like feel what that timing is, it'll like help you back on like the damage that you play.
What's your opinion on Nano versus Horus right now? Because this is a huge like
I think
controversy, I guess.
I think I is better. I think in general, like kind of what I was saying earlier on like positioning in team fights, like you are super vulnerable. Your heal dart, especially if you're traded, which you ideally want to be traded so you can heal more and fire sleeps at longer distance. Like your range is extremely far. Like you should be decently far back in a team fight, and that is just a really good talent to like both heal and do damage. It's fun killing people.
Oh yeah. It's just great when like, oh, I made it, I'm alive. Look, there's the gate. Snipe.
Also, that level 20 is insanely.
Oh my god.
You do so much damage.
Oh my god, I never forget. I had it on was it Cursed Hollow? You know, Cursed Hollow has the tightest corridors in the entire game. Like, I pierced like the entire team, including my allies, and it was just like K's. Like it was ridiculous across the board of how much healing it was going through. Like insane.
But yeah, I think if like you are just a, you know, Jaina comp or something like that, like Nano is definitely still good and viable. But even in those situations, I don't think it's a must pick just because, you know, you have a Jaina or a Ming or whatever it may be.
Whenever I get find... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
go ahead. I just say like I find Nano and like Stim Drone to be like the, especially when you're not playing in a team setting, I find them to be the bad choice enablers. Like literally, you ever seen the Overwatch or the Underwatch Carbot videos where it's literally like she accidentally Stim Drone or Nano Boost Mercy and she's like, ah, she like runs in there. Like that's how I picture it. Like you nano a Jaina and Jaina's like, yes, and she just like runs in the team and just dies. And you're like, bro. Like,
it's so true.
I was literally actually gonna say the same thing. But I was gonna say that when I get nanoed as a Jaina or a Li Ming or anything, or even a Kel'Thuzad, I feel like, oh my god, this is my time to shine. I have to go in. I have this is my power. All the pressure is on me now. Like I feel like I have to go in. It's like, and even though I know if it's like a really bad situation, I'll get really excited. I'm like, oh, I'm nanoed. Like, and I'll just go in, like, start killing everybody, or I'll die.
It's the same thing with Stim. Like, you Stim a Raider, and, like, even if this team fight is, like, the sense is, like, all right, we're, like, losing this team fight, just, like, use it to output damage as you're stutter stepping away. It's like, no, I'm running into them. We're gonna go kill some things, and then they just die.
I'll never forget when Morales first came out. I remember that like Morales and Vala was so good together, and I legitimately like stim droned a Vala. No, it actually was Garrosh was around. So no, it was around when Garrosh was around. I remember stim droning a Vala, and she got stim droned, and she vaulted into the team as soon as she got stim drone, and then Garrosh was like, whoop, and like threw her into the team, and she like, exploded. And I was like, all right,
Oh.
well, not doing that again. And then she's like, where are my heals? And I'm like, where's your body? That, man.
Yeah, let me, as Morales, just go up and say hi to that Garrosh and high five him and try and heal you back there.
Can
Yeah,
you stim?
that'll save me.
Can you stim drone yourself as a Morales?
I wish.
No.
No, you
It's
can't.
sad.
Aww.
I would stim drone nobody but myself if that was a possibility. I'd be like, yeah, okay.
Right?
So like watching it.
I had
throwing Nerf balls at people.
I had a Morales on my promo game once that took medevac, and it was cool because it was on Curse. It was on Curse Hollow, and medevac could be viable on Cursed Hollow. Get to the boss right away after you take your boss and whatever. It's a big map. It could work, but interesting enough, the Morales used the medevac right in the middle of a team fight to try to get everybody out of the team fight to escape. Okay, I have a question. Is there a cooldown? Is there a time? Can you deploy the medevac right after everybody gets in it, or do you have to wait until that timer runs out?
You can do it. You have to wait it's like a second or two. It's like a pretty short time, but you can tell it when to leave.
Because we got in that medevac and we all died.
I
actually, talking medic, I actually think medevac is the ult choice that I pick 75% of the time. I like it.
It's useful. It's definitely useful.
It's great to save yourself from pyroblasts or something like that. It's great. It's like a bunker.
Wait, you could save yourself from pyroblasts with it?
Yeah, it's honestly like the best way. Obviously the best way is getting a bunch of global utility, but in a team fight, if you're just getting targeted down, if you're able to just jump in a medevac and not fly away, but you just fly 5 feet back, but get back into the team fight after and you're fine. I think it's better.
Why is that? Because the medevac takes all the damage from the pyroblast?
It's a vehicle. So when you go in the vehicle, it's like going into a bunker.
So it's like bunker. Okay, I was gonna say, so it's kind of like bunker.
Yeah.
I never thought of using it that way. That's I guess because I never played Morales.
my favorite story, I have a story time. I was playing with Mac, and not McIntyre, but MacDoodle, and he was playing Morales for the first time, and we're in a battle, and we're all dying, so he drops medevac for us to get out of the battle. We're all inside. You can clearly press the button, and he's going, 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm like, press the button! He's like, 2. I'm like, press the button! He's like, and then the medevac dies, and he goes, why were you yelling at me to press the button? I'm like, you can launch it before the timer finishes! And he goes, oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh.
Poor Mac. Poor MacDoodle.
I was screaming. I'm like, fucking, sorry, fly! I'm like,
Morales doesn't have mana anymore, right? She just runs on energy, pure energy.
Correct.
She never had mana. Did she have mana?
She used to, right?
Did she really?
I think maybe when she first came out, she had mana.
She did. Yeah,
and then I don't know how long after it changed, but yeah.
I think it was around 2.0. I think that she got the energy or whatever you want to call that.
Mm-hmm. One healer I really wanted to talk about was Whitemane. She kind of fizzled out. What happened?
I think it's something where she continued, she was really good, she was the best support, and just continuously got nerf after nerf. And there's, I think honestly one of the biggest things is kind of what saw the rise of Anna, in my opinion, and the fall of Whitemane was that I saw Anna as a Whitemane counter. Because you could heal someone up so well from such low health with Whitemane, and now you just grenade it and they're dead. I thought that was like when Whitemane was being picked a ton, and before Anna was like good, I'll say, like the rework where she was getting picked, I still liked playing Anna into Whitemane. So I think that's one of the biggest things from my perspective is Anna thrives on like her ult giving armor, but in general it's having people be at that like 30%. You W someone and they're just constantly at that, even if you're just putting tons of damage into them.
Whitemane came after Onna, right? Or was she before Onna? I can't remember.
I think she was after,
She's
but
after
like
Onna.
Anna was just like seen as this not viable in competitive or high level games for like the longest time.
Huh.
Unless you're June who wanted it, but
Poor June. Remember the sign they were hanging up? Let June play Onna. Was it Onna? Let June play Onna? Yeah. Poor June. I feel bad. If anybody has any more questions in chat, please feel free to ask myself or Vipey. But unless you guys have no other things to say about healers, I don't have any more questions. Unless you guys want to talk about a specific subject. I think we kind of went over everything that could be gone over for a healer. But
yeah, I think we covered most things. Like we touched on the patch and some of those things. Like I said, interested to play Deckard, excited to play Rhaegar with Lightning Bond.
Here's a good
the
question.
Biggest things.
Here's a good question from Stan. When do you double support? I feel like the double support has kind of just gone away. But
I think, and I'll quote my tank player that Uther is one of the best tanks out there. In organized play. So like Uther tank in terms of a double support is really strong. I think biggest thing if you go double support, it's you have to have a very specific reason in mind. So it's like if it's a hyper carry like Vala Tracer type situation, or if it is picking supports with high utility, like a Tyrande and Uther that have the stuns damage that you can capitalize on. I think those are the biggest things with double support. I think kind of as I've been saying, like in general, supports there's a lot you can play, which means there's a lot that are good. So like in general, double support is like viable right now. The biggest things when you look at double support as a weakness are generally macro game. So the big thing you want to make sure is that you have a strong wave clear hero paired with it, and like something that can take camps with it. So like if Rhaegar is one of them, that kind of helps answer that problem. But like if you like for instance, if you do it and you have like a Johanna or something for wave clear, or a mage that like a KT, some type of like wave clear, like a Jaina, something like that. Like I think that's the biggest thing to make sure you don't forget about in draft.
I definitely have come across an enemy team within Uther Tyrande, and that was the most frustrating game I've ever played. Stuns for days, stuns and heals and damage for days. Like
it's really good.
It is really good. I should play Tyrande more often. Actually, I might actually just go off and play some quick match with Tyrande after this.
We always do that, Kags. Whenever we get into these conversations, we're always like, "Oh, now I'm maining this hero."
Now I'm maining this hero. Yeah. Do I miss the days of double support?
As a support player, I enjoyed it because it was one of those things where now is like it was very viable to play a lot of different things and you got to try a lot of things. But in general, I'd say no, I don't miss it. I like that it's situationally good, but not good all the time. When it was like required and you had to like take a healer first pick, and then you had to get another one, and like the team fights would last like 10 minutes and nobody would die. Like it's not, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's as much like skill or fun or anything going on in the team fights really. When it's just like you have to like, because it was a time when it was literally you have to go double support and they have to go double support. And so like that time I don't miss, but I like that it's like situationally good.
What even, I don't even remember the days of double support. Like what healers were picked for double support? Just
Tyrande were one of them. Like,
Tyrande
way back.
Even like last summer there was like a phase, I think like after it came out, because like White Mane does a good amount of damage, where like it was like White Mane Tyrande, like those kinds of things.
I used to roll White Mane Onna, and that shit.
Ugh, that's
like,
nasty.
I can show you all a clip of when I killed the entire team.
I don't want to go against that. Oh my god, that makes me want to cry.
just imagine level 20 White Mane with the what's her that one ultimate with the damage, the circle ultimate called again? Oh my god.
Not Aegis.
Yeah, that's like what first popped into my head.
Yeah,
I think I've only picked that talent like twice, so I don't know the name.
Something righteous, but you pick that, and then Onna nanos you, and it groups them up. So once they're grouped up, you just EW chain lock them in, and the entire team just melts.
Oh, like, Jesus Christ!
And they can't kill you because you're healing yourself while doing it.
Is that still viable today? Could you run Onna?
I mean, if I start a trend, I won't be mad.
If you what?
Probably could.
If I start a trend, I won't be mad. It's really fun. You know, it's a one-time thing. So if you mess it up, you mess it up.
You just can't kill any. I just can't visually see myself killing anybody if the enemy team had an Onna and a White Mane. It's what? Reckoning. Oh yeah.
Called Divine Reckoning.
Oh, Divine Reckoning. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's just nasty. It's just really good. We used to run it constantly, and it would just melt teams and there was a point where they were banning one or the other because it was just insane how much you can do.
Oh, I want to try it. I've never been on a team that had Onna and White Mane. I want to try it.
It sounds like fun.
I'm scared. All right. Well, if anybody else doesn't have any more questions and you guys don't have anything else you would love to talk about, oh wait, hold on. We do have a question from Deadly. You guys keep interrupting me when I try to do things. Deadly says, how would one solve mana issues with White Mane? Everyone complains I'm always low on mana. Does she have talents for that?
Yeah. She does. I guess it would depend what build you're going. The standard is W build where like you get refunded mana. I know they nerfed it, but it still refunds a good portion of mana. I mean, so I would just... Sorry, go ahead.
No, if you finish your thought, I'll go on mine.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, like, pretty much like whenever you're healing like that, have track of, can I W an enemy, or is my Wing my ally off cooldown? And like otherwise you shouldn't like spam Q on people, because the biggest thing with White Mane is when her mana gets low is like because you're queuing too much and not getting the refund. I personally still love Q build White Mane, which there is mana talents. I think it's level 4, reduce mana cost on Q. If you go Q build, the biggest thing is only using 2 Qs unless you're in a team fight. The extra mana cost from like using 1 Q and 2 Qs for healing output is pretty low, but like to throw out the 3rd Q takes like almost half your mana. So like just keeping track and not using, and I mean that goes as well for like if you're W build, like if it's not in a dire need and you're like worried about mana conservation, like don't use your 3rd Q because it burns a ton of mana.
Yeah, I mean it's her Q is shorter than like Malfurion's Q, but you can kind of like, at least you can do 3 stacks of Desperate Plea and then use your friendly to wipe that complete stacks, as it wipes your with the talent as level 4, I think it is. It'll completely wipe your your Desperate Plea, which you'll see your whole entire mana bar will be red, which means that the next Q you do will drop your mana like that. But if you use your Desperate Plea or your W on an enemy, it'll wipe that entire Desperate Plea out, and then you will have continuous mana like the entire time. It's all about learning how to be conscious.
I feel like
cautious, like yeah.
I feel like Whitemane mechanically is very difficult to understand.
She's complex.
She's very complex because like I've played her before, but every time I go back and try to play her, I'm like, okay, wait, how do I play her again? Like it's just so many things to remember, what talents bounce off of what, and doing this, benefits this, and it's very complex to play her. But
it's definitely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went over it on my stream before about what to do with her, and it's all about just learning your hierarchy of like what to do with her and who deserves the Q, because it's not like Malfurion where you'll have like 30 seconds till it goes away. It's about like 12 seconds or something like that. If you or 8 seconds I think it is. If you put Zeal on, the primary targets you want to put Zeal on is your tanks and your dives. If they're going to get out of your range, you want to make sure they have it. That way you can at least keep them alive.
Right.
And then obviously yourself, but it just depends on, like I said, who is the most important to you. And she's hard to play just because of the fact of there's like if you pick her first, you're gonna have a lot of counters. She's easy to counter sometimes.
She's hard to position with too, just because she stands still when she channels. So. But yeah,
that's another reason. Just in general, why I always saw Onna as good into her, because her biggest healing output is with her W, and so you're just self-rooting. So you can just hold your sleep as soon as she tries to W to heal, and the other team gets no healing.
Yeah.
And then you can W, and you can grenade them, and then they still get no more healing.
So no healing for you. No healing for you.
But I think you hit it right in terms of like just knowing like your W cooldown, and you're also like way better at calling out talent names. I just know the QWE. But just like you don't want to like throw a bunch of Qs out if you can't W anything to conserve that mana.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, I'm gonna try this again. If anybody in chat does not have any more questions, I think that does it for us today. Unless you guys have anything else you would like to talk about. Maybe Legacy? No? Okay, I think we covered everything that I wanted to cover, especially for support versus healer, since that's the new categories. Thank you so much, Legacy, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, would you like to remind everybody where they can find you and everything?
Absolutely. So first, I feel like I'll get yelled at if I don't shout out my team again. So Team Good Guys in Division S, come check us out. Like I said, I think we play Saturday against LFM, so it should be a good game. If you want to get more information from me, like I don't know, I love like just talking about the game and things like this, so like feel free to like message me on Twitter or whatever, and I'll respond and such. Twitter is legacy_hots, and then my Twitch is legacy100. I'll type in the chat so you can see.
Definitely do that. Send in some links so people can go follow you. And Vipey?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Vipey. I'll just do this. Boom. There I am. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Vipey_. And yeah.
Yay!
Where can we find you?
You can find me here every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. CT. On Wednesday nights now. It used to be Thursdays, but now all heroes all day on Wednesdays. You can follow our casters, players, and partners on HeroesHearth website at heroeshearth.com and twitch.tv/HeroesHearth. And again, you can catch us, the Eye of the Storm, bi-weekly on Wednesday nights. Again, that is 7 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. CT on HeroesHearth Twitch channel. And any of our episodes, if you have missed any of them in the past, They are up on YouTube. That's YouTube Heroes Hearth, and on Spotify as well as iTunes. And every week, our podcast lady Jules puts up a special podcast link for us. So definitely look for us to retweet that. But other than that, thank you both for being here tonight. And we will catch you guys later. Don't you dare, Vipey. Get out of here. Get out of here with that alliance. All right. Bye, guys. Have a good night.